Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Timely Action Hour podcast. This is the show where we talk about everything from Star Trek to Superman and everything in between. I hope that you are all doing very well today. I am myself. And if you are a new listener, welcome. My name is Aiden. I'm your host. And welcome back to my returning listeners. I am so grateful that you have decided to come and listen to this episode. Today, I am on Season 2, Episode 6 of my podcast, Members of the Super Family. So this episode, I decided to continue the trend from my previous one where I talked about Batman's extended family. So today, I want to talk about Superman's extended family. So, the Super Family is an expansive group of people all rallied around the Man of Steel. And obviously, Superman is the patriarch of this family, and the matriarch is his wife, Lois. And other members include Lois's younger sister, Lucy, Clark's adopted parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, his birth parents, Jor-El and Lara, and Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, his boss and good friend, Perry White, as well as Superman's younger cousin, Kara Zor-El, also known as Linda Lee Danvers, or on Earth 2, Karen Starr. And on Earth 1, she is Supergirl. On Earth 2, she's Power Girl. Both versions exist on the same Earth because Power Girl traveled to Earth 1 to live there. Not intentionally, but, she's here now. And anyway, so those are sort of like the main setup. And then we also have the super pets. So Superman has a dog named Crypto the Super Dog. And Supergirl has a few pets of her own. Streaky the Super Cat, Comet the Super Horse, and Beppo the Super Monkey. Now, these are all animals that were born and raised on Krypton, but ultimately ended up on Earth. Now, you might be thinking, Jor-El and Lara, Superman's birth parents, they're dead. Yes, they are, but they are honorary members of this family. Also, Clark's father may or may not be dead, depending on which continuity you are reading. Same with his mother. But, even if they are dead, they are honorary members. And then we also have characters like Lana Lang, who was Clark Kent's high school sweetheart. Then, as an adult, she moved to Metropolis to sort of rekindle her romance with Clark, and she and Lois had to compete to see who would ultimately end up with Superman. Ultimately, Lois got the last laugh. We also have Lori Lemaris, who is Clark's college girlfriend. Now, Lori is originally from the city of Atlantis because Lori is a mermaid, and she sort of disguised herself as a human being, sort of like The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. And she, as disguised as a human being, attended the same college that Clark Kent did, and then they fell in love and started dating. Ultimately, it didn't work out for them, and but they still have love and respect for each other, as does Lana and Clark, but Lois is his main squeeze. And Lori died in Crisis on Infinite Earths, along with everyone, honestly. But after Crisis, they decided to get rid of the Super Pets and Supergirl because they decided, no, Superman is the last son of Krypton. We can't have his dog or his cousin show up, or even that villain General Zod, or the bottled city of Kandor, which is just a city of small Supermen. But, there's a red sun within that bottle, so they don't have powers, but that's neither here nor there. The point was they wanted to go back to basics. But also, pre-Crisis, we had the Legion of Superheroes, who was this team from the 30th century who worshipped Superman. And also the sometimes villain, sometimes ally, Mr. Mixius Spitlick, who is from the fifth dimension and is mainly a nuisance for Superman. But if Alan Moore is writing him, then he is a monster. But post-Crisis, we had... Oh, also pre-Crisis, we had Professor Hamilton, who was a friend of Superman. And if you watch the cartoon, you know how that ends up. But post-Crisis, they got rid of a lot of these characters, but then they brought them back eventually because people were whining about them. Also, they were running out of ideas, so I was like, okay, bring back the dog. Okay, bring back the cousin. Okay, bring back the Legion. But not the monkey. And, or the mermaid. Sorta. Maybe. I don't know. What are we doing now? And, post-Crisis, there was a character named Steel, who was a man named John Henry Irons, who Superman saved, and after Superman was murdered by Doomsday, John built himself a supersuit and went by the name of Steel, and decided to honor Superman's memory by protecting the people of Metropolis. Also, during that era, there was a boy who surfaced who called himself Superboy. Now, pre-Crisis, Clark Kent became Superboy when he was, 10, and stayed Superboy until he was, 18, then he became Superman, and that was how he got so good at being Superman. But post-Crisis, they decided, okay, that's not going to be part of his backstory anymore, but we still want to have Superboy, so we'll make him a clone of Superman. So Superman's arch-nemesis, Lex Luthor, took Kal-El's DNA and mixed it with his own and created a clone that he wanted to use as a weapon to destroy the Man of Steel. But Superboy was a good boy, and so Clark adopted him as his son, Connor. Now, Connor is a fun character. I really like him. He has a lot of fans. And, yeah. Then, also, around that time, and then a few years later, they resurrected Supergirl. And Power Girl had survived Crisis, but they messed up her origins, so it was weird. But then, in the 2000s, they're like, okay, we gotta fix this. We made a big mistake with Power Girl. She's back to being Superman's cousin from Earth 2. Okay? Good. Moving on. But yeah, they also brought back Krypto, but they didn't bring back any of the other pets. And two honorary members would be Nightwing and Flamebird. Now, you might be thinking, Nightwing? Isn't that Dick Grayson? Well, yes. However, Nightwing was a hero on Krypton, and Flamebird was his sidekick. And then when Dick Grayson decided to quit being Robin and become his own man, he talked with Superman about it, and Superman told him about the legendary Nightwing of Krypton, and Dick's like, your Uncle Clark, can I use that as my name? And he's like, sure, son. And then he does. And Flamebird, that name was adopted by Dick's ex-girlfriend Betty, who was the original Batgirl. And, yeah, so other members, post-Crisis, just before the New 52, they also added Chloe Sullivan, who was an original character of the television series Smallville, which talks about Clark Kent when he was a teenager up until he becomes Superman. And in that show, they created his childhood best friend, Chloe, who lived in Smallville with him, and they briefly dated, but, they were mainly friends. And she was added to the comics around 2009, 2010-ish, right before the New 52 in 2011. And in the New 52, I don't think that they had her. And also in the New 52 reboot, they got rid of a lot of the Superman family. The only people that survived were Supergirl, Power Girl, and Krypto, as well as Mr. Mixius Pitlick. But, yeah. And also we have Clark Kent and Lois Lane's son, John Kent. Now, pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, they got married and had a son named John, named after Clark's adopted father, Jonathan Kent. But then they were wiped from existence. Then, during the New 52, they said that the post-Crisis, pre-Flashpoint Superman and Lois had survived in a pocket universe. There they had a son named John, again named after his dad. And, then they were brought into the New 52. But then, during DC Rebirth, which is a storyline, which is a sort of lineup that DC did a few years ago to undo the New 52, they said that everything is canon. So everything from the golden age of comics in the 1930s up until now, 2022 at the time of recording, it all happened. But that doesn't really make any sense. But also, with that, they said that the pre-Flashpoint Superman had always somehow made his way into the New 52 universe. And he was 10 years older than this new Superman, and he was married, and he had a child, and he had a beard, and he looked good. But it really didn't make any sense. It's a whole thing. But now Clark's son, John, has become the new Superboy, and he took over as Superman for a little while his father was off in space doing shenanigans. But I heard that the story that shows what Superman's actually doing in space is pretty cool, whereas I read a few issues of what his son was doing. Not a big fan of that, but that's my own personal opinion. But, that is every member of the Super family, from both pre-Crisis, post-Crisis, as well as the New 52. And in the previous episode where I talked about the Bat family, I did forget a few people, so I do apologize about that. But I wanted to do similar to pre-Crisis, post-Crisis, and New 52 sort of setup. But, that is everyone who has currently or previously was a member of the Superman family. So, if you are new to my podcast and want to listen to more episodes about comic books or Star Wars or Star Trek or The Lord of the Rings or video games, please subscribe and check out those episodes. And thank you so much for listening. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys are wonderful. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you for listening. God bless you all. Goodbye.